You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here's your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 64, the biggest cover-up in productivity history with Demir Bentley. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to get the most from your business and life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm looking forward to bringing this episode to you because you're going to meet our guest, Demir Bentley. Demir and his wife, Carrie Bentley, are a husband and wife team behind Lifehack Bootcamp, the productivity and lifestyle design company for professionals who want to bring sanity back to their lives. They're known for their no BS, no excuse coaching style and passion for creating huge transformation in each of their clients' lives. They're also known for leading by example and consistently pushing the boundaries of lifestyle design, traveling around the world and experimenting with different ways of living. Their work has been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, WSJ, HuffPost, and on podcasts like Forbes 30 Under 30, Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing Made Easy, The One Thing, and Don't Keep Your Day Job. Carrie and Demir live a nomadic lifestyle, living up to 3 months at a time in cities around the globe. When listening in on my conversation with Demir, you will discover the F.A.S.T time management model, time mastery tricks and tips, our unexpected number one core need in life, some answers to your focus woes, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Demir. Welcome, Demir, to the Productivity Straight Talk Show. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am wonderful. I am really excited about our topic today. You and I just spent some time really kind of getting to know each other and geeking out about, productivity. And my listeners have heard me say that honestly, I have guests on the show that I've handpicked because I really get some excitement and energy from really talking about productivity because I know how much it can impact people's lives. So before we jump into today's topic, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself, your business, and who your ideal clients are?
Yeah, so my wife and I got into productivity actually from being really bad at it. I know with a productivity coach, I think people assume that you're born organizing your sock drawer, and nothing could be further from the truth. We were successful, but we were those insecure overachievers working in finance for myself, and my wife worked for Kraft Foods, managing the billion-dollar bologna business at Oscar Mayer. And we were the 80-hour-a-week people. Instead of the 5 to 9, we were the 9 to 5ers. And we got to a place where we both have chronic illnesses, and we got a diagnosis within 2 weeks of each other, basically telling us you can't work like this anymore. And so we needed to figure out a different way of being, a different way of working. We really thought it was the end of our life. Really, we thought it was the end of success. But what ended up happening was actually the beginning of success, because that was the beginning of us really diving into the world of systems, really diving in the world of lifestyle automation and productivity. And if I am going to give us a little props, as it were, what I would say is that we're really good investigators. We're avid researchers. And so what we did is we really dived in and focused on what are the things that really work in productivity? What are the things that don't? And that evolved over time to us teaching it to other people, falling in love with helping other people get a transformation, ultimately creating what we do now, which is Lifehack Bootcamp.
Okay, that's a really great story because I heard your story when I was looking into you guys and having you guys on the show. And when I heard that, it was a resounding yes, because I truly 100% believe that productivity is a skill set that can be learned, that we're not either born this way or not this way. Like, obviously, there's some people where it may come easier to them, but I really feel like this is a skill set that one can be learned, and two is something that we always have to refine. Like, right when we think we got it figured out, our environment changes, our situation changes, our projects change. And so the requirement of the skills that are required change. And so I love that you took this on as we are going to learn this and not just learn it. Heck, when she learned it, now I'm going to teach it. So that's great. I love it.
I'll tell you what, Amber, my mother just dies laughing when she sees me on national television as a productivity expert, because she remembers when I had to take a semester off of college. And because I was so behind and so disorganized, she had to buy one of those old physical organizers and open it up and walk me through how to use an organizer. So now to see her 38-year-old son as a nationally renowned productivity expert, it makes her spit Coca-Cola out of her nose. She loves it.
That is hilarious. I love that. It's got to be so empowering and inspiring for others that feel like, that sounds good. Thanks, Amber. Thanks, Demir, for saying that it's learnable, but you've really just experienced this, both you and your wife. And so I think that's phenomenal. Now, I have to admit that while I'm a sole believer that this is a skill set that can be learned, I was the girl that had a little more tendencies towards it. I was the girl that organized her sock drawer. And I actually just recently found like a bunch of planners that I had from high school, and the stuff that I would write, like everything, assignments, dates with my boyfriend, which happens to be now my husband. Like I had everything in this planner. And so, fast forward to me, I'm like, my business is kind of like an extension of like who I was. But I can see that because through my experiences, I couldn't agree with you more that there's tons of people that have did the work, right? Like it's not easy. It takes work to decide I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z. But it also takes work to learn how to play the piano. Or if you're a business owner, you don't generally just wake up and become a really good marketer. Like it's a skill set you learn. So I feel like this is one too.
Yeah, this is a little soapbox of mine, so I'll just say it in 15 seconds or less. But I genuinely believe that stepping up to excellence in performance and productivity is way easier than the alternative. People make such a big deal. They think, my life is so hard right now. I can't bear it right now. Man, how much harder would it be for me to learn these new productivity techniques or get more organized? And the truth is, everything becomes better when you step into excellence around performance and organization. You make more money. You have more time. Your quality of life goes up. So that's sort of my banging the pots from the rooftops. I'm always trying to tell people it gets better from here, not worse. Easier, not harder.
Yes. Yeah. So I obviously, like on my title and how people know me is the productivity specialist, but I am acutely aware that nobody wakes up and says, I need a productivity coach or I need the productivity specialist. They don't even know I exist. And so other than me geeking out and maybe you and a few other people, like people don't wake up and say, I want to be more productive. What they're saying is, what you just said. I want to make more money. I want more time. I want better quality of life. And so then it's through research on their end that I think that they stumble upon yourself or me that says, oh my gosh, like that could be the skill set missing, the gap, the knowledge gap missing for me attaining those very real things that to me are all reasons to get super excited about productivity.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, so many people are looking for that magic wand solution. Like, what are the 3 easy steps to be a perfect person in less than 30 days, right? What are the 5 mistakes that people are making? That the truth is that we're all going out there and laying bricks every day. That's just what we do. We go out and we're creating our future just one layer at a time, one layer at a time. And when you can stack twice as many bricks, and when you love stacking those bricks and you have fun with that process, take that out a year or 2 years, and your future is going to look so much different. My wife, Carrie, and I, we believe fundamentally people can take care of their own future as long as they're stepping into 100% of what they can deliver. And I think why people really beat themselves up when they walk in at the end of the day and they've spent too much time at work and didn't get enough done, they're beating themselves up because they know they could have done better. It's not because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. They know there's more in the gas tank. And so I think that's what's really special is, in a weird way, my argument for productivity coaching is most of what you need is already inside you. You just need to get out there and stack bricks better.
Awesome. So for the duration of this episode, we're going to teach people how to stack bricks better.
We are. That's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay, great. So I was sharing with you right before we started recording, and I will just let my listeners know that I am very particular about who I have on the podcast. And for a lot of reasons, but I really hold this time being in someone's ear like very sacred. And so for the most part, almost everybody I've had on my show have been either people that I've personally known or somebody's made a personal introduction to me and I've built a relationship with. And when your wife, Carrie, reached out for you and her to be on the show, I went through the application and I went and watched some of your videos and listened. I was like, oh my gosh, like they're like my brother and sister from another mother. Like they know what they're talking about. And so I was like, yes, it was really a resounding yes, because I couldn't think of ever not having like my listeners not hear what you had to say and your own take on productivity. And it did help a bit that you really said, let's get this straight. What we're going to talk about today is the biggest cover up in productivity history. And I honestly couldn't wait to hear what you had to say about that. So Demir, can you share with us a little bit more about the biggest cover up in productivity history?
I would love to. First of all, it's important to understand a little bit about how we work. So our focus at Lifehack Bootcamp, when we put the people through an intensive 60-day process, we're not just training them what worked for us. We're actually iterating through hundreds and hundreds of top entrepreneurs and small business owners and executives at Facebook and Uber and PepsiCo and Kraft. We're actually testing and road testing the skills, tools, and technologies that really work. Because I think we can agree, Amber, some things in productivity sound so amazing, and then you try to put them to work and they don't work, or they don't work for long.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Like somebody thought that looks really good in a book. And then people just keep telling everybody that's the way to do it, but nobody is actually getting results from that particular method for sure.
Well, and then the inverse happens too, right? There's things that sound terrible, like you would hate doing it or it doesn't work. And then you do it and ironically, it works like a charm.
Yeah. Or even in my experience, it's often the simple things. People want to make it much more difficult than it needs to be. Simple things often have the biggest impact.
Oh, totally true. I say those exact words myself all the time. So you just stole the words right out of my brain.
I was watching this movie yesterday, The Miracle, with my son and husband, and it's about the hockey team that went to the Olympics in 1980. And the coach was ruthless, and the coach was having them do the fundamentals, the simple, not fun, over and over and over again, because he said, if you get the basics down, like the rest will be so much easier. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great example and story for productivity. People want to go for the fun, the exciting, the sexy stuff, but really sometimes it comes down to the very simple, like kind of grind it. I don't like using those words particularly, but the simple things done over and over again get really good results.
Well, you've just actually stolen our exact analogy because
I
love it. I love it. I love that this is becoming more common knowledge. And I want everybody, my wife and I always say, we want our kids to look back at what we teach and say, yeah, duh, of course. We don't want it to be some like secret locked away in a chest. We want to get this work out there. But the truth is that pros do the basics better. And sometimes things become automatic. Certain habits, certain routines, certain uses of technology that accelerate your productivity, they just become automatic. So very much akin to the sports analogy, what we really want is to not have to think and white knuckle our productivity. We want our productivity to just flow out of us like LeBron James throwing up a three-pointer. He's not thinking about it. He's not debating it. He's not biting his lip. He's just going for it. And those skills and those habits are automatic.
Okay, so then what is the big cover up and what are some of the basics that you teach or share that you think would get some drastic results?
Absolutely. So what we found after working with hundreds, literally hundreds of top executives and trying to get them to have a transformation. At the end of the day, that's what we do. How do we get a transformation? And one of the things that we found that was very cuspy, meaning half the people got it and it changed their life, and the other half of the people just couldn't get it, was time mastery. And the way that we approach time mastery. And it's a very common thing. If you Google time management or time mastery, you'll get 1,000 tips and tricks. But the funny thing is, some people have this aha moment where they really step into full ownership and they really get the full benefits. And other people tend to sort of crutch along and never really have that transformation. And so it was a battle for us for many years to understand, like, what are we missing? how are we not explaining time management and time mastery in a way that people are getting excited about it? Because we know that they should be excited about it because the tools that we teach just work every single time you use them. But I think you know, Amber, you can't use a tool until you're enrolled in using the tool, until you're excited about using the tool, until you see the benefit of using the tool. And so one of the things that I was doing one day is I was reading Grit by Angela Duckworth, which is an amazing book. And one of the things that really blew my mind about grit in that book is she said, everybody wants grit. We all want to create more of it. We wish we had more of it. But how do we? We don't even understand the word grit. And she broke it down in the simplest way. She said, grit isn't one thing. Grit is actually 4 things packaged together so tightly that it truly does look like one thing. And it really shook my world because in that instant, I knew that actually time management is not one thing. It's actually composed of other things so tightly bound that you can't even see the difference. Like water. Water is actually H2O, right? But we just see water. It looks like its own thing. So after I had this realization, I rushed into the other room with my wife and I asked her, what are the composite parts of time management? And we came up with what we call the FAST time management model, where we really take time management and make people realize that it's actually not one thing happening when you're managing your time. There's actually 4 things working at the same time. Like the pistons of a car, if you think about it, the car's just moving forward. It looks like it's just a car. But actually, there's 4 pistons working together to make that car run. And if one of them breaks down, all of them break down. And in that moment, we realized that that's the great sort of cover up or breakthrough in time management is we're all out there acting as if time management is this one thing, this one skill that you're either good at or you're not good at. Just like grit. Everybody's acting like you either have grit or you don't have grit. The reality is we can break it down even into further composite parts. And those composites are things that we can control. They're things that we can change. They're things that we can develop.
Okay, that sounds super exciting. So my question that came up was when you did that research and you're saying half got it, half didn't, and the half that didn't is really what drove you to create this framework, right, of the FAST framework. What is the most popular piston that gets broken or is broken, like in your experience?
That's such a great question because the honest to God truth is that I almost see equal distribution around these pistons being broken. There are people, and I'll give you the FAST framework right now. So if you're listening, you can write this down. Focus, attitude, stamina, and time. I want to say it one more time just to be clear. FAST equals focus, attitude, stamina, and time. And so we've seen, Amber, people who have tremendous focus and they've actually got good stamina. They're taking care of their body and they're pretty decent with their time management, but they have a really crappy attitude. And we've also seen people who have a great attitude and have great focus and they have great time management. But how productive can you really be on 4 hours of sleep at night?
Not very productive if you're me. I think there's a very, very, very small percentage of the world that can get 4 hours of sleep, but that's not many.
So yeah, I mean, with your permission, I would love to sort of like break those down a bit and jump in and have a discussion with you on each of those and really also suggest some ways that people can jump in and start to actually move the needle on those right away.
Okay, let's jump in. I'm excited.
Cool. So why don't we start with focus, right? I think the best book of 2017 was Deep Work by Cal Newport, almost like a treatise on a magnum opus, if you will, on focus. And he went all the way. He talked about how focus is the new IQ in the knowledge economy. It's actually better to be focused than to be intelligent because somebody who's focused can outperform somebody who has even a couple points of intelligence on them.
Yeah, I think that focus is something that a lot of people are desiring in this age of distractions and interruptions. And honestly, like they have the excuse, like, I just can't focus and then stop there. So I think this is a really good skill set to highlight.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast of you, and I can't remember his name, but you had a guest who was talking about multitasking and ADHD.
Yeah, Dave Crenshaw.
Yeah, it was a great segment. And one of the things that he touched on that I think was something that a lot of people need to know is we get so many clients coming to us and saying, I must have ADHD. I must be on the spectrum. But if you actually look at the American Psychological Association's definition of overwhelm, and overwhelm is actually a psychological condition, and you look at the symptoms of being overwhelmed, and then you contrast that with the symptoms of ADHD, they overlap by almost 75 to 80%. Irritability, lack of focus, an inability to pay attention.
Yeah. So, and you're referencing the interview with Dave Crenshaw, and he has ADHD. And he was sharing his story about how he didn't use that as an excuse or a crutch. Like he learned the skill set of focus.
Absolutely. But what's more miraculous than people with ADHD getting focused, which is totally possible, and I've seen it time and again, is that a lot of people who feel like there's something wrong with them, the second they take the distractions away, they fall into focus. And I love that word, fall into focus, because a lot of us think that to get focused, we have to add something. We have to expend a tremendous amount of energy and clench our fists and make our knuckles go white. And the truth is, you don't have to add anything to get focused. Your brain focuses just fine when you subtract distractions.
Yeah, I agree. I actually never heard the terminology fall into focus, and I love it.
Absolutely. So for us, we get clients coming to us all the time saying, oh, Demir, I've hacked productivity. When I work at midnight, and I wake up at midnight and work till 5 a.m. And there's only one thing that's different about somebody after hours than during work, and that's that they don't have distractions. And so when we really create and re-engineer our environment, we don't have to manufacture focus. We can fall back into focus and experience our brain the way it's waiting to be used right now.
Wow, I'm having my own ahas. And that's why I love these interviews, right? Is that the way that you just framed that was, instead of being focused something that you're going to get, that it's something that, like you said, like hardwired, like it is who we are. And we're going back to our natural state.
Absolutely. So now again, think about this car analogy. We've just given you the first piston of that engine for your car, focus, and understanding that if this piston is missing, it almost renders every other piston useless. Think about this. If you have a great attitude, if you have incredible stamina and you're well rested and well exercised and well fed, and if you manage your time really well, but when it comes to the moment of truth, you just can't focus, it's all for naught. So do you want to move on to attitude?
Yes, let's talk about attitude.
This is my favorite, frankly. I think people really underestimate mindsets in productivity. They really think about it as woo-woo, airy-fairy, hippy-dippy stuff. But the truth is, I think about your attitude almost as the operating system for your day, right? And when you come in with a victim attitude or a negative attitude or an angry attitude, everything that comes out of you, the way I like to put it is that everything that comes through the birth canal, as it were, of that frame of mind has that birth defect or that positive. So everything's coming through you. Every report, every project, every task, every little comment is coming through the operating system. It's being birthed into the word through your attitude.
Yes, I really agree with this, because when you're talking about all three other pistons can be working, but if one's not working, I feel like with a lot of my one-on-one coaching clients is that they can get to a specific place and then mindset limiting beliefs kick in, like saying affirmations, negative ones, like I'm not good with time, I never have enough time, or maybe it's a belief about doing a certain activity because it's connected to money. Like all of that is braided through, like you said, the attitude or the mindset around these types of activities.
Absolutely. And if you wanted to map the whole universe of attitudes and mindsets, it would be huge. But I really believe that there's two core roots. And if you take one path, you go left. And if you take the other path, you go right. At the very juicy core of all mindsets and attitudes is whether you choose to be a victim or whether you choose to be in ownership. If you choose to be a victim, you will never get to the ownership and beautiful world of positive, proactive mindsets. It'll never happen. Being a victim will always take you down a road of resentment, of anxiety, of fear, of depression.
Yes, I agree with that. So can you explain to me what happens right at the beginning of the fork in the road, right? Like if this is a pillar in which is part of the FAST framework, like what determines if we go right or we go left? in your opinion?
Absolutely. I believe that it's a choice because you have to understand that being a victim gives us our number one need in life. People think our core need is to be loved. People think our core need is safety. It's not. Our core need is to seem right. We need to feel right. We always need to be the good guy, the hero of the story. And so when we're a victim, we're always right. I'll give you an example. When I was in finance, I worked under a terrible boss, and he was genuinely, actively trying to keep me from getting promoted and succeeding. So I felt that I had no options. I had no way forward. And I sort of descended and sat back into a victim attitude and just sort of stewed on the whole experience. So I felt right. But of course, I was living in a place of resentment, regret, fear, anxiety. And then I actually got lucky enough to stumble across something called extreme ownership. And it's something that is really big out there today, but 8-10 years ago was really, really new. And it was the concept that I own everything in my life and I'm the cause of everything that's happened, good or bad. How did I contribute to this situation with my boss? How do I still own that every single day I have an opportunity to move out from behind the situation and into that space when I just open myself up to the possibility that I'm in control of everything and I'm the result of everything good or bad? A very simple sentence came into my mind, which is, how do I become so good that they can't refuse to give me a raise, that they can't ignore me? From that moment, I decided to take on a project totally new. I didn't tell my boss about it. I spent $250,000 in company resources. I won't say illegally, but certainly unauthorized. And I turned it into a product that was, during the housing crash in 2008, the number one selling product on Wall Street because it tracked home prices on a day-to-day basis down to the zip code. And during the housing crash, it was the must-have product for every single hedge fund. And so what happened was they genuinely could not refuse to promote me. I had stepped into a level of excellence where even my boss's objections about me being promoted could not be overcome.
Wow, that is such a great story. So one of the things that I had a similar experience, and it was the same thing, like an aha moment. Mine was in my early 20s. And for me, it wasn't one particular moment in time. It was more an experience that I was going through in that time frame. And during that time frame, I picked up the whole victim, victor, kind of same thing, victim, victor, and you're calling it victim ownership. And so the mantra that I say when I see myself at the fork of the road, and it's interesting that you use that example, is I use the words, what is my highest choice? And I just say that in my head, like, okay, you have a choice here. And we're not going to say one's right or wrong because that was something else that I was trying to learn. Just what is your highest choice? Just switching that and just pausing and even having that question like empowers you to remind you, you have a choice and you're going to go one way or you're going to go the other.
I love how you say that.
Thank you. And for me, I got to tell you, it was one of the most, personal development wise, it was one of the biggest ahas and growths that I've had in my entire life. And I have an 8-year-old son right now, and those are words we use all the time. Like those were not words in my vocabulary, not how I grew up or anything like that. In fact, I grew up in a very victim mentality family. So when I even heard of the concept victor or victim, it was like mind blowing. And so now I tell my son, like, what is your best choice? What is your highest choice? Or if he says something like a statement, I will say, is that true? Giving him an opportunity to like reframe it like you did. Like, is it true that you can't get a promotion? That kind of opens up, well, possibly I could be like the best guy in the world and create this amazing program. Like that comes from that question.
It's so true. One thing that I'll toss into this bucket before we move on from attitude is so many people burn up and get so frustrated because somebody gets promoted above them and they say, I'm more talented than that person. I've done more for this company for that person. But the truth is that a person with a great attitude and a bad plan is almost always going to outperform a person with a great plan and a terrible attitude because people don't want to play with that person. People don't want to be around that person.
Yes, that's a great way to close up attitude. So far we've covered F for focus, A for attitude, and next is stamina, S.
Absolutely. So before we move on, I just, again, think about your engine and think about what happens when you can't focus. Now think about when you can't focus and you've got a crappy attitude, right? Now moving on to stamina, this one is such a obvious sort of duh moment. People know that they need to take care of their body. We know that we need to sleep. We know we've been told a million times that we need to eat the right foods. But when it comes to productivity, you don't hear a lot of people talking about body. Now, the biohackers in the really nerdy sort of right-hand corner of productivity, they love talking about the body because they get it. They understand that it's the engine. The mind is not like a computer separate from the body. The mind operates in the same rules of the body. It needs energy. It runs out of energy. It can be exercised like a muscle, and it can be toughened up, or it can atrophy. So everything that applies to your body is going to apply double to your mind. And so we have people getting into what we call decision fatigue and just general overwhelming fatigue. And it leads to something that we call the zombie effect. And the problem with the zombie effect is that studies have shown that when you are overworked, it's just like being drunk. Meaning when somebody's drunk, their performance goes down, but their estimation of their performance goes up. So it's like that person at the party who's like stumbling and you're like, give me the keys, you can't drive. And they're like, no, I'm fine, right? But you see somebody at the office and you're like, you should probably take a vacation. They're like, no, I'm working better than ever. But studies show consistently that when you're fatigued and when you're overwhelmed, your performance goes down. You make more mistakes. And this is really important, you just have a really terrible experience of your life. You're not having fun. You're living in fear and depression and anxiety.
Yes. So first of all, do you believe or do you see that people change throughout a season or time in their life, that different pistons break at different times?
Honestly, even within certain months, I can get to places where all of my pistons are really firing. And the truth is that high level performance, being like LeBron James in your day, is not a stasis place. It's not like you get there and then you can just coast. The second you stop working on it, when you want to be in the top 1%, the second you stop working on it, you're going to see degradation on some level.
Okay, great. That's what I thought you were going to say. So I just want to share a little vulnerable moment. And my listeners that have been listening for a while know this. So of the 4 quadrants that you're talking about in this model, stamina is the one that I most often have to really spend my time and energy to focus on. I really have good habits and stuff around focus and attitude and time management, but the stamina has been something that I've really, really been working on, because I was always feeling like I had enough time, but I was running out of energy before I had run out of time. So then that was clear to me that this was an energy management issue. And what did I need to do that? And for me, we'll link out to the episode of where I interviewed my own doctor about this, but it was really like a hormonal thing. It was my diet. It was a combination of a lot of things, but I really had to go on this journey of, why do I not have enough energy to create this longer duration of time? Because honestly, like, entrepreneurship is a marathon. And if you do not have stamina, this is not going to work out for you. So I just wanted to share that, as I feel like that's one for me.
I love that you share that, because it's so frustrating, Amber, when people come to us and they say, Demir, we've read the books, we've taken courses, we've had coaches, and something is still not clicking. And they've got focus dialed in, they've got attitude dialed in, they've got time dialed in, and they just didn't realize, frankly, that stamina was a sort of 4th pillar, that without it, the table's going to fall down. And that's the message I want to get across to everybody, is you could be doing things 95% right now. It's not that you're doing nothing right. You could be right there next to the finish line, but not doing one of these pillars. And what we found is that just one of these pistons being broken down is enough to throw the whole engine off.
Yes. And I'm speaking from experience. So,
yes. And so just to finish that up, I tell people to think about stamina like farming or gardening. The truth is that you can keep gardening in the same patch without putting any nutrients back into the soil. But what's going to happen is every season, the plants are going to get weaker and nastier, and they're going to produce less until finally nothing grows in that soil. And that's what a lot of people are doing with their body. They're just depleting it and just acting like they don't have to put anything back in. And so my suggestion for people, if they want to move the needle here, is radical self-care. One act of radical self-care. And I'll tell you what my wife and I did. My wife and I just declared that every month we have a 3-day weekend in a staycation in a hotel in the same town with no Wi-Fi and just our Kindles and a sauna or a hot tub or something. And that one simple act, which really only cost us one day a month that we weren't otherwise going to spend has been tremendous for us to get our stamina back, because we find that every 4 weeks we're depleting, but we can always know that that 3-day weekend is there to fill us right back up.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I bet it's filling your marriage up too. That's a great marriage tip.
Absolutely. Okay, so now the last one, time. And time is exactly what you think it is, time management. But a lot of people think that this one quadrant, focus, attitude, stamina, time, they think that fourth quadrant is everything. And that's where they get it wrong. I'm not saying that time isn't a really critical part of the time mastery quadrant. It's just one part. And a lot of people don't see that without focus and attitude and stamina, that the time management itself won't help. But let me go even deeper and see if I can't spin this in a way that maybe even gets people who thought they knew this to know it at a deeper level. You see, out there right now in the personal development space, we're really big on the abundance mindset. Everybody's out there, from Tony Robbins, everybody down the line is saying, don't be in a scarcity mindset, be in an abundance mindset. And what that means is believe that there's always more. Don't believe that there's less. Don't fight over the crumbs. Believe in more, work for more. And that could work in things like money. People can be a millionaire, they can lose it all, and they can become a millionaire again. And it could work for love. There's no limit to the amount of love. But we got to be real. There are some things in life that are highly scarce. And the number one thing is time. You can't rent it. You can't buy it, no matter how rich you are. You can't remanufacture some of it. Once it's gone forever. And so we give the scarcity mindset this really bad rap. We act like any use of the scarcity mindset is a bad thing. But I would argue right now, Amber, that the scarcity mindset can be incredibly useful when it comes to your time. Because at the end of the day, the scarcity mindset is great when you're defending and preciously allocating a scarce resource like time. And so a lot of people out there who are listening, they know their time is scarce. They know they should be saying no. But when somebody comes to their desk and they say, hey, can you help me on this project? The first answer that pops out of their mouth is, yes, because they don't want to say no. They don't want to disappoint people. And their eyes are bigger than their stomach. They've got all of these side projects. But when we truly understand and view how truly scarce time is, it puts us into a place where we get more on the defense and we preciously allocate that time and defend it.
Yeah, I love how you just reframed something that I did, because I'm always saying that time is sacred. It's a finite resource. And yet it kind of like is the total opposite of what we've been told to do. And so you just said, well, instead of saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, like embrace that. And how can that work for you, that you're really leaning into time being a sacred, finite resource?
Yeah, I am personally right now authorizing every single person who's listening to start leaning into a scarcity mindset with your time. And you can blame me. Say, Demir said it's okay. Because absolutely, it's the only rational mindset to take when it comes to allocating your time. Now, let me take it one step further, Amber. If you truly, genuinely believe that it's scarce, sort of, let's compare it to your money, right? We know that we don't look at our bank account and see an infinite amount of money. We wish we could, but it doesn't happen that way. So we tend to naturally do things like create a budget, and we'll go back on the last month. I don't know if you've done this, Amber. Have you ever gone back and looked at your expenditures in the last month and sort of audited the last month and said, oh, I spent a little too much on restaurants?
Yeah, every month I review my profit and loss.
Absolutely. So here's the question. Why don't we audit our time and budget our time? Just like money. We don't seem to think it's too much to do with our money, but for some reason, when I've suggested this to CEOs and C-suite executives, they say, oh, you're taking me to this really nerdy place in productivity where you want me to track my time down to the half an hour increment and budget my time out for the next week down to the half hour. Demir, you're just going too far. And my response is, try it for 2 weeks. And here's my challenge. For people who track their time for 2 weeks, the average amount of time that I see them reclaim is somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. I'd love to tell you just a micro story here. We had a lawyer who came to us named Margie, and Margie was working at a big law firm, and she said the weirdest thing to us. She said, I want to coach with you, but I don't have the time. And I was like, okay, so why are we talking right now? And she knew she needed help, but she was so slammed that she didn't even think she could make 3 or 4 hours a week free to even get that coaching. And so my challenge to her was this. I said, Margie, I'm going to give you my materials for tracking your time. And all I want you to do is track your time and keep a productivity journal next to your desk for 2 weeks. That's it. Just track every single bit of your time down to the half an hour increment. Doesn't have to be perfect. And on your journal, just write down things that happen. If you get distracted a lot, if one person in particular is disrupting you, if your boss keeps moving you around in different priorities, just do that for 2 weeks. And then let's circle back. How's that? So 2 weeks from then, she came back and I actually circled back with her and she didn't answer. And so I circled back with her a week later and I finally got hold of her and she was actually in tears. And she said, Demir, I've been avoiding your call for a week because I tracked my time and I realized I spend 11 hours a week reading the news.
Oh my gosh, what an aha.
She said, I'm so ashamed that I didn't even want to come back to you and face the music because I didn't realize that here I was. And you have to be sympathetic to her. In the moment when she said it, it was truth. In the moment when she said, I don't have time, it was God's honest truth. And if I had told her, Margie, you don't have enough time, she probably would have slapped me in the face and said, how dare you? You don't know my life. You don't know what's going on with me. But just by gathering data on herself and actually looking just the exact same way she does with her money, just looking at where she spent her money in the past 2 weeks and then budgeting in the next 2 weeks, she had a massive transformation. And so she said, oh man, if this is the warm up to your coaching, let's do the whole thing.
That's awesome. Great story. That's a really good story. I've had a couple clients myself say that. In fact, I just had one of my clients that I've been working with for quite some time leave me a review, and he had reminded me that he had canceled 3 times before we started because he didn't have the time. Like he literally, like one thing came up, another thing came up, and he said in the testimonial, he's like, and my office, like his employees were all making fun of him that he didn't have time to have an appointment with the productivity specialist. And so I totally get that. And I love that you utilized an exercise for her to come to her own truth, because both were true for her, as you said. But honestly, great job, Demir. That's great. I'm sure she ended up being a really good client too.
Oh, yeah. Actually, postscript to that story, her desire was to get home by 5 and spend time with her husband and exercise. She ended up losing 30 pounds, getting home by 5 every day. And then her peers, all of the other partners of the firm, voted her president of the firm 6 months later. So she ended up getting everything. And it circles back full circle to what we talked about in the beginning, which is at the end of the day, a lot of time you think you need business coaching or executive coaching or management coaching. And really all you need is to just step into your full self, what you can do, and give your best performance every day, and the rest will happen.
Oh, well said. I think that's a great place to end today. So just to recap, we went through your entire FAST model, and I thank you so much for doing that. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we close up today?
All I would say is to recap it: focus, attitude, stamina, and time. If you think about it like 4 pistons kicking an engine, it's better for you to be doing all of them at 80% than to be doing one of them at 100% and leaving all of the rest behind. This truly is something where you need all of the rotors on the helicopter to get liftoff. So if you've been out there and you've been thinking, wow, I'm trying to do all the right things, but it's just not giving me liftoff, maybe take this framework and work it a little bit and see if maybe there's a part or a couple parts of the framework that you can lift up so that you can get that lift off finally.
Okay, that sounds excellent. So Demir, if my listeners wanted to find out more about you or look you up, where should they go to do that?
Yeah, so we have a cool little website called www.lifehackbootcamp.com. That's lifehackbootcamp.com. And there's a bunch of cool stuff on there. But you know what? We've actually put together a really cool download for free just for the audience here today who've been listening. And you can find that at lifehackbootcamp.com/Amber. That's lifehackbootcamp.com/Amber. And what you'll find there is a really popular teaching that we have on morning and evening routines. So you can definitely check that out. And if I can put a cherry on the cake, we'll also, if you go through that and you register for that, on the registration page, we'll give you an opportunity to get our Fast Time Mastery course, which is normally $500, and it goes through each one of these pistons and helps you dial it in. We're going to be offering it for $37.
Wow, thank you so much. That sounds like a great opportunity for our listeners, and I'm sure they'll go take a listen. I will have all of the links that Demir just shared in the show notes on theproductivityspecialist.com. And I can't thank you enough. You have been an amazing guest here. And tell Carrie I said hi as well. And maybe next time we'll get you both on at the same time. And I hope you have a great day.
Thanks so much, Amber. It was a pleasure.
Well, wasn't that a great episode with Demir? As he dug deep into his FAST time management formula. When they reached out to me about being a guest on the show and pitched me with the biggest productivity cover-up, I was certainly intrigued. And after doing a little bit of research on them, I was really clear that they would be able to bring some amazing value and a different perspective about time management. And ultimately, that is my goal here at Productivity Straight Talk, is to pour into you all about productivity and time management to improve your productivity and maximize your profits. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned from my conversation with Demir today, what will you take action on? What made you think? What maybe gave you some insights that you didn't already have previously to listening to this episode? You know, when I challenge you to take action, it doesn't always need to be a massively big action taking from each episode, but really just stopping for a moment and reflecting on what you just learned and how that may impact your decisions with how you manage your time moving forward. That, to me, is considered a win. This was an investment of your time with us today, and I do not take that lightly. And I'm always looking to help you move forward in your business. So, to share your actionables and insights and receive support from other entrepreneurs just like you, I would love you to join me inside our Productivity Straight Talk Facebook community. If you're already not a member, you can join us for free by going to productivitycommunity.com. And for those of you listening that are already Productivity Straight Talk insiders, jump on in the Facebook group and let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. You know, I work really, really hard to bring you some amazing guests and to produce a podcast that I believe would be valuable to you. So I would love to hear how it's impacting you, your business, your family, just any aspect of your life from taking action from some of the things that you've learned from this episode. So if you'd like to join us, you can do that by going to productivitycommunity.com. Leave me your name and email address, and I will send you a personalized link to join us on the inside. And I want to thank you so much for leaving reviews and sharing Productivity Straight Talk with other entrepreneurs. You're not just sharing information, you're giving the gift of improved productivity and maximized profits. And today, I have a special thank you for Danny, who recently said, "An amazing display of productivity in action. Great for real estate agents and small business owners who really take it to the next level." Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much for leaving me that review on iTunes. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.